In the name of God, hello. Today, in this presentation, we want to talk about information culture in the modern high-tech world. So, we are living in the century which everything surrounded by cyber things, everything. And our life is influenced by all of this modern high-tech and all of this technology around us. So, to having a culture, especially just for this era and these aspects of our life, is important because we have different kind of culture for different aspects of our life. And this new life, which in this century we are living in, need a special culture. So we need to understand in this presentation why we need this kind of culture and how this kind of culture can influence on our personal life. Okay, in this slide you can see there is three axes of culture actually. So social culture, technological culture, and spiritual culture. So in contrast to technological and social culture, a spiritual culture is not utilitarian. So people need it on their own, not for the sake of solving any utilitarian problems. A spiritual culture is the most sensitive facet of culture, the most responsive to external influences. So sensitivity and responsiveness make it vulnerable and exposed. So just remember this part. The manifest of digital spiritual culture is reflected in the rapid growth of diverse forms of humans' activities in the networks, including creating myriad kind of text, photo, videos, and various content and forms. Everything, as you can see in this cyber era. Prior to digital age, we are talking about in the past. So prior to the digital age, the production and the publication of content used to be strictly regulated and were used on fundamental distinction between the author and his or her readers and viewers. In the digital age, in this century, this is a bit different, absolutely different, as everyone can be author. So even a like 10 years old or a teenager even can be an author right now, yeah? So this ease of accessibility to myriad kind of information, like I don't know, music, literature, news, scientific even knowledge, has changed totally, and it changed the nature of human experience actually. The ability of any person to choose his or her desired content confers a new way in which people construct their worldview, and this worldview, it can be different actually, yeah. So the spiritual culture in a hyper-connected world is individualized, and one may claim decontextualized somehow. We can say that, and this trend of hyper-individualization poses a problem for traditional like a structure of a culture actually, such as education system even, yeah, which was that based on practices that are standardized and unified teaching and learning. So we can see them even in educational aspects. So another axis of this chart is social culture, which we can see there here in the front. So social culture is defined by regulation, values, and ideal determine people's behavior in the society and their social interactions. The primary form of Social culture includes the ethical, legal, political culture, so it can be totally different. The mentioned collectivity and like everything about this social culture must vividly expressed in the digital society, in the new dynamic public consciousness formation. This point of view has become partially and generally accepted, but partially, not fully, but generally accepted. A well-known example, I can say, for example, if we come back in past, like I don't know, in 2010, Arabic Spring, which is often referred to as a Twitter revolution because it was emphasized the special importance of social media shaping the protest emotion and mobilizing the protest. So you can see that even a revolution can be led by social media and social culture, actually. So this is a very important aspect to be like noticed. And another side, we have a technological culture. So all of them, they are binded together. As you can see, a technological culture from one side binded to social culture, and from another side is binded to spiritual culture. But if a spiritual culture and social culture, they are aimed to create value and ideal, then the technological culture focus on what and how to do it. So there is two different approach, and there is a difference between a spiritual and social culture in comparison to technological culture first. Technological culture is totally utilitarian in the respect it acts to some extent in contradiction to spiritual culture somehow, because we say that spiritual culture is not utilitarian, yeah, but technological culture, it is utilitarian. So in general, since culture develops unevenly, there is a competition between its technological and its spiritual dimensions, because society prioritizes the technology culture nowadays. Its technological value colonize its spiritual values. So concerning the spiritual and social culture of the technology play a subordinate service role. No achievement of science and technology can serve the ultimate goal to which society or mankind should aspire totally. So in total, I wanted to say that why culture is important, because culture is a human behavior which our responsibility, management, society and regulation, preparedness, everything it depends on that. So all of those create a human behavior, and human behavior actually is the culture which we are talking about. So I was looking for a definition, I was looking for a concrete definition of information security culture. Because we want to focus on security aspects of this, and we have a lot of information about us. So I wanted to focus on information security, and because we are talking about culture, so we want to talk about information security culture. But to be honest, I found 16 different definitions, which each of them was unique itself about information security culture. So I'm not going to compare all of those definitions together, but I wanted to focus on something which is a bit classic and it's useful in all information security era, even in the technical side of that. So we have a triangle here, which is our information security triangle. It's called CIA. It's not CIA, it's CIA. It stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Well, let's define each aspect and each corner of this triangle. So starting from confidentiality. Confidentiality, it means to protect the information from unauthorized access. So who should not have access to some part of the information, they should not have access to that information. This is called confidentiality. And integrity, it means that the data should not be changed or manipulated or even triggered by something unless we are aware of that. So in IT sphere, we have mostly, not always actually, mostly we have some kind of checksum or a hash or a control number or text or something like a string, and by each access and by each changes, we can see that control part, that control string will change totally. Let's imagine like you want to send a letter for somebody, or you send a packet for somebody, and inside this packet there is some kind of important information, important paper, yeah? So you put some stamp on top of this packet and close it, maybe by some kind of label or glue or something. And if this part will be scratched, you will notice that this had opened before, yeah? So this is exactly about integrity. So if it's open, something is scratched, something changed, and everything is not coinciding as it has to be. So you are sure that the data inside of that packet was manipulated or it wasn't. And the third part of this triangle is availability. The data have to be available at the moment which we need it. So if a data, for example, is deleted, so it means we don't have access at the moment when we need it. So nowadays you can see we have a new kind of malware which called ransomwares, and the ransomwares actually they target availability. So they don't care about confidentiality or integrity, they care about the availability. They just lock your files and they ask for ransom, sometimes money, to unlock your file because the availability of your information now is in danger actually. So we have to take care of all three aspects of this triangle, again, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Plus, we should understand that when we talk about the information, so we have to manage all of our information. Later in the next slide, we'll talk about this more actually. And information has some values and norms, yeah? And also, we should take care of the information behavior in the term of information needs. And also we should take care of how we seeking the information. Actually seeking and searching is a bit different. How we seeking the information and how we use those kind of information. Okay, information, values and norms. So let's start from here. Information governance is being to gain traction with organization, particularly where compliance is a concern, okay? So most public sector organizations, for example, in Canada, they have informal information governance model. And this is kind of a policy actually as they have, for example. I want to bring it as an example. I want to describe the value and the norms of that. So they describe the level of information governance using political terms for that. So they have information feudalism, information federalism, information monarchy, information anarchy. So for these different aspects of that, yeah. So their observation allowed to evaluate the effectiveness of their governance model in the term of information quality, efficiency, and access to that information. Actually, as you can see in this chart, So we have 4 different aspects of that. So let's start from the relation-based culture. So information management supports communication, participation, and the sense of identity. It's actually your identity, yeah? So information values and norms emphasize sharing and proactive using of information. These values promote collaboration and cooperation. Also, the focus is on internal information. So we are now talking more about the internal information. From another side, we have a risk-taking culture. So we are now talking about this part actually. So risk-taking culture is kind of innovation, creativity, and the exploration of new ideas are encouraged while information is managed. So information value and norms emphasize sharing and proactive use of the information. This value promotes innovation, development of new product or capabilities, and boldness to take the initiatives. The focus is on external information now. So now we are not focusing on internal information, more on external information. So information is used to identify and evaluate opportunities and promote the risk actually. Okay, so the next slide we have result-oriented culture. Now we're talking about this part actually, so the down right. Information management enables the organization to compare and such as in its market or sector. Also, information value and norms call the attention to the control and integrity. We mean that accurate information is valued in order to assess performance and goal attainment. Information is used to understand client and competitors to evaluate the result. So this is another aspect of information culture and technology artifacts actually. And the last actually is role following culture. Now we are in down left this part actually. So information management reinforces the control of internal operation, rules and policies altogether. So information value and norms emphasize control and standardize the process. The focus is on, again, internal information. The organization seek the information about the workflow as well as information. So it's matter how we are taking and seeking those information actually. And about the regulatory also, it's kind of requirement for that. So information is used to control operation, improve the efficiency again, and provide accountability. Okay, information behavior in a term of information needs. So information behavior, firstly, what is information behavior? Information behavior is an individual action or sometimes maybe even inaction when we faced with an information need. So the range of information in behaviors include deciding that information is needed, searching for information when it desired that information is not presented, sharing or suppressing that information once divorced, avoiding information even, or maybe storing the information in many different possible ways actually. So storing, so information behavior affect ultimately and shape how individuals manage the information. So Here, as you can see, we have a social network theory. You can read about that here in the link which I left it down here, and get more information there about social network theory, because we are not going to talk very deeply about that, but I need to just take a very fast review over it. So SNT, or social network theory, is a way to account for a social connection that an individual employs to reach values information. So this is exactly the definition from this paper, and word by word I just was reading for you. So researchers study social position by studying the relationship between the strength of social connection and quality and quantity of information that an individual receives. So as you can see, even in this picture here, we have different levels here. Actually, we are searching, so information searching behavior, and then maybe we are seeking for information, so information seeking behavior, and on top of all of those, which is information behaviors, all of those is included inside the information behavior. So these are part of a bigger part, which we call it now like information behavior. And this is kind of a very old model. This is not something new, but this old model nowadays is going to be used a lot because of the situation as we have, because we are living in this social network ages. So culture and rules, or let's say law, the legal aspects of that, they are different. Let's make some examples. So if you pass a red light on the street, you break the law. But for example, if you start talking while you're eating something, it's not a law, but this is part of your culture, and you show your manner with that. Yeah, it's not accepted by the society if you act, but you are not breaking the law. You are just breaking the social culture, actually. As previously, actually, we were describing that what is a social culture. So my information, as we described, we have a technological aspects of culture. So my information is not just mine. So when I do something with my information, as I just mentioned, if I start talking with, for example, while I'm eating, so it's my mouth, I am eating, but it's influence on the people who are sitting around me. Yeah. So my information are not just mine, and when I share my information, it's influence on my organization, on my family, and sometimes even on my society totally. Yeah, so we should take care of that a lot. And any information we share online, including to the social media, or even in public channels, in different kind of instant messaging app, maybe you have some of those channels, it can be used against us. So that's why I offer you and I suggest you to just think like a hacker. What it can be interesting from an attacker, let's call them hacker, as we almost, it's known for us with that name. So what is interesting in somebody's information for you? If you are looking for somebody's information and you are looking to harm and hurt somebody by that kind of information. So when we want to think like a hacker or attacker, we should understand that what is the cybersecurity kill chain. Let's talk a bit technical right now, okay? So now I'm going to be a bit more technical in CySec aspects of that. So attacker, or let's call them hacker, they start with recon. And then they are, this recon is reconnaissance, like gathering the information. So firstly, they collect all information as much as possible for them from everywhere, from all different various and available places as they have. Later, we even make some example for that. And then weaponize those information against us, and then deliver the things which they need. Then they exploit us, and then they install what they want, and then they control based on what they installed on, for example, or the computer, or I don't know, in mobile devices, and in the end they have everything as they need. So let's come with just a simple example here. If I don't know who are you, if I have a minimum information, so just for example a name or something like email address, or even maybe a phone number, or just something, it can be a first point for me to start all of my investigation in case that, imagine that I'm an attacker, for example. Yeah. So this part, which I'm gathering all possible information about you, so it's called recon. And after I gather all of those information, it's like a puzzle, and I can put all of these pieces of puzzle beside each other to understand, for example, what you may like, or how is your life, for example, or for example, I can understand. This example which I'm giving you, it was from a recent science conference exactly. So I'm just copying that example for you. Imagine that you have a child, for example, and he or she is going to school, for example. So if I want to attract you to open an email or messages and click on the link which I need, so in case of phishing attack, for example, I just need to have this kind of information and suddenly send you kind of message or email from the, for example, your children's school, and say that something urgently happened for your children, or for somebody whom maybe is like a close person to you. It's just as an example. Yeah? And because you're concerned about that, and because you're worried about that thing, so you are not thinking firstly, this is how our brains works actually, yeah? You are not thinking about that, you just open, because it's important for you, it's my child, yeah? You just click on that link, and that click, it starts for my delivery. So I can deliver to you a kind of malware, and that malware is exploit your, for example, computer or mobile device or something, and the rest of the story, that I can take control of your devices, for example. Yeah, this is how attacker works. But all of those story, all of those technical parts, which how to deliver, how to send an email from somebody else, how to make a fake call, how to spoof an SMS, how to put this link, how to weaponize that, how to exploit your computer, all of those information is aside, but everything starts from one point, or recon. This recon is your information. So if you don't give me as an attacker your information clearly, so you actually break this kill chain. So everywhere you can cut this rope, everywhere you can just cut it, it means that you break this kill chain. And it would be much, much better that we kill it in the first beginning of them. So let's, because we are talking about culture, let's say that we have to learn to say no sometimes to someone, to some application, to some forms. And for somebody who are asking for personal information, you know, we have a lot of classified information which we don't care, and we unclassify those information for everybody. How much is your salary? Yeah, or where do you live, for example? There are a lot of such kind of questions which in information security, they are classified information. If you follow any kind of standards, they are classified information based on those standards. But in our daily life, when somebody asks those information, we say, okay, no problem, I have nothing to hide. So let's everybody know about that. And this is the point which we should learn to say, no, this is important information and I should not share it, especially when it comes to the online side and cyber side, when we see a form in front of us and asking a lot of nonsense questions and asking about many personal things. Okay, we have to even avoid that registration, or if it's possible, just just leave all of those fields blank and not just give those information, especially if it's kind of like online service if you want to use. So there is, there is a saying in cyber era, we say that if something is free, you are the product. So when you install some kind of application and they ask, just take a photo of you, we make, for example, a funny face of you. Take a photo of yourself and we say that, I don't know, from which country you may be, for example, or fill this form and just you will have access to just free these books or free informations. At that point, you, and better to say, your information is product. So you are not paying for that, but you pay by your information, and those information later on being used against you. Yeah. So here I put just a few questions that what kind of information we share and what do we need to share this information. So if I share, for example, my home address, or if I share, for example, my mobile contact, why I have to share it? Is there a reason really that I have to share that phone contact? Is there a real and serious reason for me to share, for example, my home address? Or with whom we are sharing those information? This is very important. When you share a photo, for example, in a social media, like, I don't know, Instagram, Facebook, which are everywhere, all of these social medias. So you share it with almost everyone. You may say that, okay, I have close, for example, friends, and I have just a specific followers, but I want to say that this information in reality, they are not totally private. They are kind of public. Yeah, just we think that those information are private. Yeah, so we share some important information without any reason, mostly. What I'm eating, where I'm going, for example, I don't know, or where I'm living, or many other such kind of information I'm sharing, just even by simple photo. And we are sharing almost with everyone in a public place. And the last question, where all this information and metadata are stored? So you may understand what is information, but maybe we don't know what are the metadata. So later on, in next slide, I will show you when you share, for example, a photo, it's not just a photo. You share much more data with that photo, which you may even never ever notice that you share those information. Yeah. And you give by your hands totally to somebody else those information, and those information now stores in, we don't know. Yeah, sometimes you can see in different countries, including the country which we live in, Ukraine, so there is some kind of filtration. So first question I want to ask, internet filtering, is it really works? Let's come back to this question that why sometimes governments try to do filtration. For example, some kind of a VK or Yandex. Here is filtered. Why government made such a decision? Okay, and in other countries, people are working with that. So is it safe for them? So we are in a war. So you share information with your enemies. Yeah, in this case, yes, it works. So you should not share your people information, especially with your enemies, because we say that those information are going to be used against you. And the information that you share in social medias, it's not just simple as you share it. It's almost possible to see all of your psychology and all of your mindset behind the information that you share those information. So in some, I remember article, scientists, they had some researchers and they say that if you share just few posts, I don't remember, maybe it was like 5 posts or something, or you like 5 different posts in a social media, the owner of that social media, let's say for example Facebook, you like 5 different posts in Facebook, so the Facebook owners, because they see all of those information and relationship between all of those informations, they know you better than your partner. So better than your wife or husband, they can know you just with 5 likes and 5 posts if you just post something. So sometimes, yeah, it does working. And if we are going to the information security standards, for example, the ISO has ISO 27001, which is information security and management system. So there we have, for example, in Annex A, we have 722, which is about the information security awareness, education, and training. And even there, we have in the next section, we have a disciplinary for the process. So you have to learn about how to protect your information. Yeah, and if you are not doing all of those things, even maybe there is a disciplinary against you because you break the rule right now. It's not right now culture actually. Now we are going to say that keeping your information security sometimes, especially if you work somewhere like for your organization, for your company, yeah, it can be even a rule right now. Okay, social media and information culture. Partially, we were talking about the social media and information security and culture in the previous slides, but in this slide, we want to talk a bit more specific about something we call it OSINT. OSINT actually stands for open source information, actually. So there are some open source information, which I shouldn't even pay for that, which I shouldn't ask somewhere for those information. Just we should learn how to gather those information. If you remember, in a few slides before, we were talking about the kill chain, and the first part of that kill chain was gathering the information, yeah, recon. So how this can be possible with OSINT and OSINT frameworks, which are a lot. So I can suggest you even a OSINT framework website. You can get there and you can see this list, as you can see there. And for each of them, it's like a mind map, and you can open each of them and you can see many different possible ways to seeking that information. So for example, if you have somebody's email, so you can get there and open that part and you can see, wow, I can search for somebody's information more because just I have the email address, for example, yeah. Or for example, if you have somebody's phone number, or if you have, for example, I don't know, some username even, somebody created one username in one website, so probably this username is going to be reused again in another website, so you can track him or her in another website and another social medias as well. So with the help of OSINT, we are collecting the information, so open source intelligence actually, we have here, based on the information we are seeking, like publicly available for everybody here. And actually part of this OSINT comes from the information transparency. So if there is, for example, a contract registered somewhere, somebody open a company in some countries, it's possible to find like publicly available on the internet, or somebody has even a court case open in some countries, it's possible to seeking for those information. So you see, just with minimum information, sometimes even as first name, last name, sometimes with a username, sometimes with email address, sometimes with different kind of minimum information, you can find much more information. So there are something which I suggest you never share on social medias. So your current location, your home address. Don't share any pictures with uniforms of you, your children, or your colleague or something, because it exactly shows that how and where do you work exactly, and what you bought or where you travel. Let me give you some story, very interesting story, which happens for a friend of mine. A thief came to a friend of mine home. It's a few years ago. And stolen jewelry and many valuable things from his home. They get to the police, the investigation started, and when they caught the thief, it was that interesting. The thief said, we knew that he's not at home, because when the police was investigating, they said that the thief was totally relaxed. They haven't destroyed nothing here, and kinda they already knew where you stored all of your things, kinda. So kinda like they had address of everything in your home, like. And even they were thinking that maybe the thief is some known person for them, because all information was available for that. But appear, no, he was not a known person. He just was tracking different people on social media, just checking and seeing when they are out of home, because they are sharing that, oh, I'm out with my family, we are traveling this, we are, I don't know, in some restaurants. So of course, it's, for example, maybe a few hours out of the city, or just taking a time lapse for them. Also by checking the previous information which they shared in, again, social medias. On that case specifically, it was Facebook and Instagram. So they already knew which kind of jewelry they may have, which kind of valuable things is located on that home. So actually, because of the picture and the videos which they were shared before, so they already knew even the place of all of those things, and relaxedly they just get into the home, take everything, and goodbye. So even sometimes for your personal security, better to not share those kind of information online, especially in social media, because social media is a public place, and all of your information, sensitive information, is publicly available. So now a question raised that how I can be secure even, and let me ask now you a question. Are we secure totally? So firstly, I can say almost no. We have no security, kind of no security, because the things which sometimes we think that make us secure, in reality, it do nothing for us. Just in a simple case, I can tell you, for example, when you turn off your location service, imagine that in your phone, you think that you are not trackable, because, for example, when you open your map or you open some another applications, you cannot find yourself in maps, so it means that you're untrackable, yes? But in reality, it's not like that, because this is just a button. that you move it and say disable or enable, but the hardware still is available on your phone. And even when you disable, for example, let's say location, your location, it's still available, just not for you as a user, but for operating system level, it's still available. And because your operating system is owned by another brand which you have no control over it, so it's still available for them. So basically, you share your information minimum with the brand who created your, for example, let's say mobile device. So if you have, for example, Apple iPhone, so you share your information directly to the Apple company, yeah, or Google as well. So any Android 4, you share all of those information with the Google company. But the application which you already installed may have access, not always, but they may have access to those information at the operating system levels. So imagine that even when you disable that, sometimes, actually not always, technically, it's possible to get those information. But we cannot say that we will do nothing for security. So I can suggest you to follow the CIS benchmark for each kind of operating system as you are using. Like, let's say if you are using as a mobile phone, Android phone, Windows mobile phone, or Apple iOS operating system if you have, or in your computer if you have, I don't know, Linux, Mac OS, or Windows. So for all of these things, there is a benchmark and there is like a minimum requirement which you have to reach for your security. So follow those instructions. They are not so difficult, even there are some script which you can just run and have those minimum configuration on your devices sometimes. Sometimes not for all operating systems are available, but this brings a minimum level of security. And when you install some application, at least be sure that you give enough permission to that application. At least take care of camera, microphone, or location permissions when you install some application. Suddenly, you are going, I don't know, you install some application for voice recording, imagine, okay? So microphone is needed there, I understand, but they ask you for your contact list permission. They ask you for location, for example. Why you have to give those permissions to such applications, right? So take care of those permissions, because it can make your security level much better. But still, I've told you, in some level, even by not giving those permission and even by disable all of those things, because it's just a button, it's just an interface in front of you, yeah, still this kind of information is available. The page here which I'm showing is exactly an example of that. So the location service was disabled here, but when we analyzed in some mobile phone, we could see, okay, the location is available, and we could see the latitude and longitude, and we could track exactly the position of the device which we had actually on that time. Yeah. So from another side, I want to pay attention to some text which mostly are just not even reading them. Imagine that in Apple devices or in Google Android devices, for example, this is a common text which you may haven't seen even before. So location service use GPS Bluetooth and crowdsources Wi-Fi hotspot and cell tower location to determine your approximate location. So it means that if you're not giving the GPS, so let's say that we don't have GPS here, okay, but still Bluetooth is available. Is it possible to locate a device with Bluetooth? or Wi-Fi, or even a cell tower? 100%. The answer is yes. How it's possible? Easily. Because when, for example, imagine that these are the cell towers and your mobile is locating somewhere here. Based on the signal which you get from this tower, that tower, because this is radio signal, yeah? And this tower, approximately, they can locate that you are exactly on this area. How about the Bluetooth? Yes, absolutely yes, because you disable your location, for example, on your devices, but there are many different devices around you which they haven't disabled their location. So just they need to understand how far you are from another devices, which with Bluetooth approximate, actually Bluetooth works in approximate between 10 to 15 meters. So if you can see another device, definitely you are 10 to 15 meters far from that device, but still more accurate it is possible to locate you. And if this device location is enabled, so I should understand, okay, you are in, for example, maximum 10 meters far from that device. Or when you are using Wi-Fi and hotspot, so each Wi-Fi and hotspot with different available services, they are located, geolocated, because your Wi-Fi modem has some identification, which is like MAC address, and those MAC address, when somebody using internet from that modem router, it's possible to be tracked. So I'm not going to describe how technically everything can be tracked, but anyway, even when you pass, for example, McDonald's, and automatically you connect to that and disconnecting while you pass even by your car. So even while the location is disabled, you are still geolocated. So it's possible to see where exactly are you. So take care and be secure, because it's sometimes, as I mentioned before, it's not sometimes just your security. It's your organization security. It's your family security. It's your business security sometimes, yeah? So we need to have a security culture, because this security culture influences on every single aspect of our life, at least in this century which we are living. Thank you for watching. I hope that you like this presentation. So if you have any question, also you have my name, so you can find more information about me definitely, even if you don't have my email address, by easy search you can find everything. So awesome, as I mentioned that. So find more information about me, and if you want, you can contact me freely. Take care.